for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so from memory,
No.
the Tri-Creek School community of students, staff, the Tri-Creek School Corporation, students, staff, and community endeavor to be
A recognized leader for high achievement and exceptional growth.
Innovative and equitable approaches built upon
strong community pride,
and provide all students with well-rounded educational experiences to prepare for future successes.
Engaged to learn.
Equipped to achieve.
empowered to succeed.
Shit, well, your 3 word.
We've had those for about a decade now, so we're good.
Right on. Welcome, everybody. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Alrighty. Public comment for agenda-related items. We don't have any. Alright. Open up the public hearing. Are we missing somebody?
Yeah, Thomas, he'll be here, but we have a PowerPoint presentation that Dana and I can tag team through. I can show it from, you want to show it from my
Is that part of the
computer?
public hearing?
I can pull it up. Why don't I take it because I have the bonding things too.
Yeah,
This is part of the
That's
public
okay?
hearing?
yeah.
Okay, perfect. Presentation of the proposed projects.
Oh, so this was the initial presentation. We presented this back at a board meeting in November, and we've tweaked it to make sure it is accurate regarding the bond sale. And so we always start out with our strategic plan in our goal area for facilities and infrastructure, which is driving the rationale in moving forward with these projects. On the next is a highlight of the process that we took. You can see it began in January of 2020 and made its way all the way to this date. Included in there was the facility assessment firm, the public meetings. There were 4 over a course of last school year, the demographer report, assessed value figures. We had work sessions, school town hall meetings, and another work session, and then amongst the other hearings, and today would be the final hearing. You can see overview, part of the bond sale money would go to improve efficiency in the district regarding our maintenance and warehouse location over to the transportation center. And we've outlined all of the benefits of that. One example, the snow removal would be right on site at the transportation center to dig out the buses. That's an example of the efficiency. A second example would be the mechanics that work on the district vehicles as well as buses. It's all right there together. A third example of efficiency is our power grid, and that just putting the electrical use on the solar panels. Moving on, facade improvements to both the middle school and the high school facilities. Going towards that image of pride. Image of pride was very important to people in the facility assessment study. Being proud in our community and proud of our schools. When someone drives into town off Route 2 and they come to Lowell for the first time, that they see that Lowell High School, and our community is very proud of that first impression. We have an athletic complex that currently is subpar to the other schools in our athletic conference, as well as those not in our athletic conference. And there's a comprehensive plan to set the stage for the next 50 plus years on that campus. Some of the, it basically touches just about every outside sport, as well as has plans for natatorium. And cabinet members, if there's something that you want to interject, do so at any time. You can see, some people may ask, well, why the natatorium? Our current pool, we continue to spend money on outdated and inefficient systems. Our pool lanes are not the same size as our competition. And currently it's not available for community use for reasons of continually breaking down. Sometimes our athletes have to go practice at other facilities. And so the vision here is to fill in that pool area, which would provide a home for appropriately sized for our gymnastics and our cheerleading programs, as well as some performance lab areas, as well as virtual golf could potentially be an option for golf. An auditorium added to the north side of the building would provide opportunity for community use, and that coupled with the field house, coupled with some cable weights and cardiovascular equipment, would provide a nice area that we could provide a facility open to our public, along with our tennis courts. And so that's the natatorium. Elementary schools, part of the renovation of the middle school into 2 schools under 1 roof. It allows the opportunity for enrollment growth for our elementaries. It also provides an opportunity, if preschool ever comes to be reality in Tri-Creek, it provides space for that. The bond sale would also go to some aesthetic improvements, branding, wayfinding, signage, flooring, and paint, furniture for all 3 elementaries, the high school, and other areas of our district. Current middle school, we have unutilized spaces. However, looking at programming needs, the opportunity to do a 6th grade intermediate center, 7-8 middle school, all under 1 roof, as well as reconfiguring some bus lanes, identifying each school with their own entrance, intermediate school entrance, middle school entrance, and some classroom renovation on the inside. High school entails relocation of district office over to the current, capturing some current underutilized space of the media center, and updating the media center for the future. Now that computer labs aren't integrated in media centers, we don't have TV and VCRs for checkout and overhead. So there's opportunity to take advantage of that, and enhancement of the athletic facilities as well. Traffic patterns, and is that it?
That's it.
Okay.
We covered it all.
So, now we're ready
All
for
right.
public input.
Is there any public input? No. Alrighty. Number 3, adopt a resolution 2023-04. The resolution approved building corporation authorizing, what's that word? Execution of amendment to lease agreement. Number 4, or I gotta do them separate, don't I?
So we have our bond counsel present, and he and Dana.
Yeah, it's execution. Bond lawyers don't mess around.
Execution, got it.
The 3 resolutions for you tonight set in place for the sale of bonds. And what it is, the first resolution authorizes the execution of the lease. The building corporation had yesterday approved their side of the financing, obviously subject to you all approving your side. And what this does, that's the mechanism for which the school makes payments on the bonds, is through lease rental payments. Second resolution would be to authorize the building corporation to issue their bonds, which will then be the ultimate financing of the project. Third resolution is, belt and suspenders, additional appropriation. For you to spend money that comes through your accounts, you would have to have an appropriation to do so. This money will be spent directly from the building corporation accounts with your approval, because that's how money gets moved out of there. But it comes from their accounts. I've never trusted the DLGF to not suddenly have a cow and say, why don't you have an appropriation to spend this money, even though it's not going through your checking account? So I have an additional appropriation done anyway, again, just to protect you all in case they go crazy. So those three resolutions set in place the selling of the bonds and the mechanisms to pay them back over time. And it's my recommendation that you adopt all three resolutions tonight.
All right, thank you. I can do all three together, right?
Sorry. Can he do all three at once?
Yes.
Okay.
Perfect. All right, adopt resolution 2023-04, adopt the resolution 2023-05, and adopt the resolution 2023-06.
I'll make a motion to adopt all three, 2023-04, 2023-05, and 2023-06.
I'll say.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes.
Yeah,
Thank you
Mr.
very
Pre-
much for doing the work of going to the rating agency to get their original approval of the bonds, which is always a fun time, right, Dave?
Yep, I
And,
look forward to it.
and we'll report back.
All right, thank you.
Mr. President, we did include in the board materials some illustrations of tax rate as a result of our last meeting. And if it's all right with you, we circle back around to the presentation of that. I didn't want to muddy the waters because that really didn't impact the resolution.
Okay.
Thank you, Thomas.
Good evening. Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you much.
Have a safe trip.
Yeah, I think you closed the hearing.
All right. The public hearing is now closed.
All right, so Dana, I think you've got three illustrations here, a 93-cent, 98, and a $1.05.
Right. So this first one is the 93-cent model that we saw last time that Jim Elizondo from CEPL, our financial advisor, showed us here. He showed us that he kept this 93-cent model here up until 93-cent tax rate up until 2028, and then it drops off. So this model here shows this stair step right here, which is when you can possibly issue another section of further debt under the 93-cent model if you wanted to retain that 93-cent tax rate. Again, current tax rate right now is $1.05. So this would be bringing that tax rate down to 93 cents.
And we structured it 93 because we anticipated the operations referendum
Correct.
to be on top of that, and we wanted to be sensitive to taxpayers.
We were trying to minimize the effect of that 20.5 cent by offsetting it by a tax rate drop here, so.
Prior it was 98.
We've been hovering right around that $1 range. I'd say for the last 7 years, we've been in the anywhere from $1.02 to 98 cents. 98 cents probably being, a comfortable rate.
Is it the last column? Is that the total school tax rate in that last column?
Yes,
Okay.
right in there, yeah. Yeah, right in there shows just the history from 2020. We had 99 cents, 93 cents we dropped to in 2021. We went up to 98 cents and then up to $1.05. Yeah. All of those being fluctuations, they kind of correspond over here to the percent change in assessed value. 2.45, 3.88, 4.47, and then we have the big jumps. So you can see that. So this model here showed us that issuing 95,500,000 in bonds actually yields us $90,187,000 in project costs. So that's the amount of money that we would have to do our laundry list that Andy went over of projects here. So this is our 93-cent model. Again, the assumptions are up top here, showing that our operations fund growth would be 5% for the years 24 to 26. I'm sorry, assumes the adjusted MLGQ in 24 to 26. They bump it up to 5% in 27, 28, and back down to 4% there. So this is what Jim went over last time. The board asked to take a look at what it would reap, what benefits we would reap if we actually bumped that tax rate up a little bit or looked at other models. This model right here is a 98-cent model, and this 98-cent model holds that tax rate of 98 cents. You can see all the way over here in the far right column for 3 years up to 2026. After that, it starts to drop off. So that's our shelf right here in 2027 that you can see where the drop off is. That meaning that you could issue another set of bonds if you needed to, if you had further projects to fund. You could start that process in 25 or 26 for the payments to hit in 27.
So that's the natatorium.
Yes.
How much does that shelf kind of represent there approximately?
There's a lot of things up in the air. We're still looking at that 45 to 50 million, but assessed value is a key component. In these cash flows here on this column, we have our 21-cent jump in assessed value last year, and then we've got 6% assumptions in there for a while, and then 4% and we dropped to 0. So that's saying that if our assumptions of assessed value and our values here hold true, plus the assumptions that we have in growth for our operations fund, which is that peach color on the bottom here, if all of that plays out, then yes, it's in the 50 million range. If it's less growth, then we would have less capacity. If it's more growth, it would be higher.
Got it.
And the tax rate change there is about 9 cents.
Yes. And again, looking at that 98-cent model, bringing it back to what a norm would be, I guess, for our tax rate here, reaps the benefit of our total, this current project cost here, we would get $91,717,000, which is a 1.5 million over that 93-cent model. So we stretch the dollar a little bit more here. We get a little bit more by pushing that tax rate 5 cents higher, 1.5 million.
From a historical perspective, I'm just accessing one of the documents Dana had prepared during the referendum. Over the past 21 years, only 5 years has the tax rate been below $1, with the lowest tax rate in the year 2021 at 93 cents. And it's been as high as $1.62 back in approximately 2006. So we've been, with our work with Stiefel, targeting that 98 cent as an illustration. We felt like the board was sensitive at the last meeting. You didn't really want to look at going too high, but you also saw the need not to stay low with the failed referendum.
The 98 cent, I like what it does with the capitalized interest. We're talking about being conscious of our spending our money and using what we get at its best and keeping things consistent. I feel like this does that. I feel like we're good stewards of our money with this spot.
But I also think about what message we've been sending to the taxpayers when we were promoting the referendum, saying that it drops 93 cents. I don't want to raise that. I support the 93 cents, but not the 98. Again, looking in the future, we're gonna have to go back to the taxpayer at some point for whatever, whether it's another project or whether it's supporting our teachers and staff. And so I don't want to leave a bad taste and change what we've been pushing all along throughout the referendum, making taxpayers feel like we're jamming them, even though it's 5 cents. but that after everything that we've heard from the taxpayers, they don't want to pay more taxes.
So-
And it will be dropping down, I fully understand that from the current.
But we did that by design
Right.
for the community of a past referendum.
I fully understand.
Right. I don't know, to me that makes sense, the 98 cents.
I also believe that, with the exception of our one guest, nobody is here ever in concern with any of these numbers and these things that we post consistently. So a $2 million savings, with a 5-cent tax difference is a lot.
Ken?
Nope.
The taxpayers would still find relief from the current $1.05 going down to 98 cent.
Right.
Yeah, that's
And
still
help
a
out the
drop.
district a lot.
We don't have to figure anything out today, but we wanted to be responsive to the board's request, and here it is, and we'll continue to plug and chug and try to get a better idea of what our options are. Is there anything else to present? I think that was.
Now, there was a $1.05 model, but I don't think we want to go there, huh?
98 shocking as it is.
Alrighty. Superintendent's report?
Yes, I've got some correspondence here for the board. Thank you so much. And this is from all of your bus drivers and transportation center for the pizza. And I heard a lot of positive feedback, so thank you to all of those who were able to help deliver and help support the decision to provide pizza to our staff. So I'll pass that down. The second item on the superintendent's report is the Indiana Employment Relations Board, who reviewed the negotiated contract with the teachers union. We just received our correspondence back to them, and they will tell you, hey, look, you did this wrong, and so there's a finding. So as you go into negotiations this fall, you need to be conscientious not to do that again. We're proud to report that we had 0 findings in our last round of negotiations, so.
Which is huge because the dynamic of the contract changed so drastically, and it was very challenging to switch and get on the grid, our grid style contract that we have, which has been out of our contracts since 2011, I think it was the last time. Between 2011 and 2015, that was our last contract with a grid in it. So it is not easy to switch over and switch back to the grid without many challenges or findings, but where there were many phone calls to ERB, many meetings working with the union to get that as compliant as we could. And it's quite incredible to have a contract without any findings, let alone one that's been converted like that too. So very, very proud of how that turned out as a district and how we worked together as a team to get there.
That's the key.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Cleafish, you had asked about work being done at Lake Prairie. So, Dana, do you mind just giving a snapshot?
I'm sorry.
No.
I was emailing Jim and Luke, just telling them we're not going to call them. It's just so that they can handle everything.
Well, you can finish the email.
Sorry.
We'll come back to you. Kevin, is there anything that you would like to update regarding intermediate school?
Yeah. So the intermediate school committee will continue to meet through the summer months. I've shared with you previously, like the biggest rock that we've been deciding is about what teaming structure we would use, because that totally creates the dynamic of how many teams do you have, what footprint do you use in the building, what courses are you offering, and most importantly, what are the staffing needs and the licensure needs. So I will say that while I want to offer a formal presentation when we get there later this summer, we made a huge step forward at our meeting earlier this week and think that we have a really strong recommendation to share with you that meets the needs of our staff and licensure, but also importantly, stays true to the desired outcomes. we've always come back to that true north of like, let's remember why we wanted to go this route. It was never about, we just have the space, so let's put the fifth graders there. It was about, while the space is there, can it be advantageous to them, for them to have that stepping stone, that bridge from the elementary experience to the middle school one. And I'm very confident in the teaming structure we're going to recommend really does that. It's unique. It takes from a lot of what we loved most of other models from the intermediate schools that we visited. I think it puts the guardrails in place for those kids to help them transition while also starting to give them that autonomy and flexibility as they become, almost teenagers, preteens. So we look forward to sharing that. And now that we are there, it allows a lot of those other big rocks to fall in place related to specials, related to electives, related to your bell schedule. All of those things can now start to take shape. And our goal is to have a lot of that ready through the month of July so that we can offer a full presentation to 5th and 6th grade teachers when they get back in August. Because they've known about the work and they've known that we're doing it, but we've really respected the norm of like, until we have something ready to share, keep the conversation in the room, otherwise people will have misconceptions and that presentation can be skewed. So we'll be ready to do that for our staff members and colleagues in August.
Thank you. Yep. So just so you know, Dana and I really try to do our homework with Steeple, but we never know if any of you might have a question sometime that would stump us, and so we have our colleagues on standby in case. So Dana was letting them know.
Because they couldn't.
Yes, they're in Denver right now, so I'm sorry, Dana.
Yeah.
But obviously important that you let them know to go on with their evening. Lake Prairie, just on construction, the work that's.
So I'm happy to hear that, number one, Scott's got final design and they're able to pull together the numbers and he got the full design so that he could price those out for me. I'm anxious to hear the results of that, to make sure, even though he told me things were looking good, I've been really waiting for those budgetary numbers to come in so that we could figure out what other value type things we could pull into that project besides just the 6 classroom addition that we have there. The HVAC itself there, we are still targeting an August 16th completion date on the HVAC project. There's 2 phases going on there. We are finishing phase 1 and moving into phase 2. And it is going well. They'll start opening up ceilings and finishing now that we've got all
crane out there today.
the fun stuff's going on. So now that staff is moving out of there, Lisa and her crew will not be in that building until we give them the go ahead for cool air because they we'll be finishing that up. So that is that's working pretty strong right now. Bless you. Even though we've been working on that, it's been a good 6 months, if not longer, in between everything that's going on.
But there was a blessing with the air conditioning being off. The pizza that was delivered
Yeah.
stayed warm.
There you go. There you go. Yes.
And then I think LED lighting is
Yes, it is.
why we have the ceilings ripped open
We are.
to
We're
change up.
doing LED as well in all those buildings, similar to the Three Creeks and Oak Hill one.
Were there any grants that helped support that?
We have the NIPSCO Energy Savings Grant, $18,000 rebate, and another, I think it was $7,000, so about $25,000.
Plus an annual savings.
Yes, annual savings as well. So we did apply for those, and yeah,
Good.
yeah. I think it was $7,000 for the LED and $18,000 for the HVAC overall, because it was such an aging system. So yeah.
Good.
And then the boilers were already replaced, so
Yep.
new boilers, new chillers, new LED lights, new 6 classroom addition soon, so.
A nice usable courtyard area too for classroom, outdoor classroom space included in that. So yes,
Are they in solar out there too?
yes, there.
And you're going to hear from Jay, so I think that is all we have for the superintendent's report.
All righty, thank you. Any staff recognition?
We do have some staff recognition. I will skip the video and go straight to the testimonies of 4 people. One is Jennifer Luzinski, if any of you went to the Lake Prairie Art Show. Jennifer is the art teacher. Parent indicated, over the years, all 3 of my kids have loved art class with Mrs. Luzinski. They have always said the same thing about her. She's awesome. This year she did an outstanding job with the Lake Prairie Art Show. It was glow-in-the-dark themed and the displays were impressive. You can tell she loves what she does. And so it's nice to see the parents chiming in. I know Mrs. Johnson out there had chimed in as a parent, so.
We saw the video.
Yeah.
It was enlightening, no pun intended.
I went through it, it was amazing, it was amazing.
Ken Roach, we ambushed him, and again from a parent, after Lowell High School student tragically died in an automobile accident, Mr. Roach opened the Red Devil Trades building at the beginning of spring break for boys to weld a memorial cross for placement at the accident site. So we were able to surprise Mr. Roach, and
He did a lot more than just opening the
Yeah,
building
for
and being
sure.
there for that. So
Yeah, he definitely
he
did a
carried
great job.
heavy counseling weight
Yep.
throughout
Above
that.
and beyond.
the next one was for Jen Wathen, who is our high school nurse. This was from a parent. Mrs. Wathen always goes above and beyond with my children. My daughter was having heart issues at the beginning of this year, and Mrs. Wathen always made sure she was comfortable and recommended I take her to a cardiologist where she was diagnosed with POTS syndrome. Any child who I have ever seen in her office has always received her best attention. And the final one is high school math teacher Karen Wiley. From one of her colleagues, colleague indicated, Mrs. Wiley teaches math at Lowell High School. She quietly goes above and beyond every single day. She meets with students nearly every day before school and many times after school. She strives to create a confidence in math where kids many times do not feel confident. She works tirelessly in this building, and it often goes unnoticed. Not only is she a phenomenal teacher, but she is also a supportive colleague and friend. She does not always tell you what you want to hear, but she is always honest, rational, and realistic.
Sounds like a math teacher.
And you know what I really love about these 4 testimonies is it's a reminder of the teaching profession and why people go into teaching and why society, I would hope, would someday return to the day when education is highly respected because for these reasons. And that's self-recognition.
All right, thank you. Board member report? Alrighty, moving on. Number 1, approve the minutes of the meeting held on Thursday, May 25th, 2023.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
One second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Number 2, approve the payroll and claims.
I'll make a motion to approve the payroll and claims.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Personnel, we want to approve the personnel, or approve the reduction in force of 1 mathematics teacher at the Lowell High School due to enrollment numbers for the 23-24 school year and no extenuating circumstances involving leave of absence among staff.
So this pertains to, I made mention of it back in April. Because we had 2 leave of absences in the math department last year, we had brought on an additional math teacher to help sub and also transition those 2 leaves of absences. Because our enrollment numbers and we don't have any extenuating circumstances, we're really in a position we need to drop back down to the appropriate number of teaching positions. So according to board policy, you need to formally provide to the board the notice that we need a reduction in force and get your approval to do that. I did hold off a little bit because we did have an opening elsewhere in the district, and we had that teacher interview for the position, but it wasn't the best fit, and so for that reason we need to now move forward with requesting the RIF.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Number 2, approve the personnel report dated Thursday, June 8th, 2023.
I'll make a motion to approve the report.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor by saying aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Technology, update on student devices, grades 6 and 9. Okay.
Thank you. We have some exciting changes that are going to be coming to the district, starting with some of our 6th and 9th graders. I wanted to share that with the board. Before we talk about that, just to give some history to our new board members, talk a little bit about our one-to-one program over the years. We started in 2012 with our one-to-one program. We had a committee of teachers, parents, students, staff. I know Dr. Cleafish was on it at the time. Kevin was on as a teacher. We looked at a number of different devices and ultimately settled on the MacBook Air 13-inch as the device that we felt was best for our students and staff. And that started a long relationship that we've had with Apple up to this day. Those devices, originally purchased in 2012, were refreshed in 2015 and in 2018 with a slightly smaller model that's basically an education-specific model. This was something that Apple created specifically with schools in mind, so that it's at a little more affordable price point, and has some specific features that really help with that. One of the really important things with that is that that device has what's called a bezel design. So if you notice on this laptop, there's a silver border around it. It's a little bit more rugged than what we're used to seeing. We've had high reliability with those devices over the years, and that goes to show that right up until about 2020, that device type was the main one that Apple was providing to schools and selling to individuals. In 2020, they replaced that with what is now known as the MacBook Air 13-inch, or MacBook Air M1. With this, they stopped selling an education-specific model. It's the same one that if you were to walk into an Apple store or Best Buy, you would have that same device. One very important difference with this is that it now has an edge-to-edge screen. There's no bezel in there, it's all glass. I should say all glass. So there's a difference there if you look. You can see them side by side. It's got that nice thick bezel around it on the original model, and they switched where it's glass all the way across. But that is really the only option that Apple had. After that device came out, in 2021, we started to upgrade our student devices because we moved away from a mass purchase where we would replace all of our grades at one time. We started moving to a phased approach at the request of the board so that we would start switching things in grades 6 and 9. Those students that year received these brand new devices. The following year, students in grades 6, 9, and then those current 6th and 9th graders became 7th and 10th graders, as well as our 11th graders were able to get these new devices through some additional funding that was available to us through some emergency connectivity fund grants for pandemic funding for schools. In addition, we were able to replace our teacher and staff devices in 22 and 23 as well. So we have moved basically almost our entire fleet to these newer style devices. So historically, one of the things that we've looked at over the years is the reliability of those devices, and that's been one of the big drivers for our success over the years. Typically, we would average around 20 to 30 broken screens. Now, you're talking 17 to 1,800 devices across the district. We'd see maybe about 20 to 30 broken screens. With those, the usual cases would be things where it'd be like student negligence. A student left a pencil in it, closed the screen, cracked the screen. Students might be playing around, 2 students, somebody drops it, falls down the stairs. Things that were, understandable. Obviously, we wouldn't want to see it happen, but it does happen. In districts where, when you look at technology and the reliability of it, what they typically try to shoot for is if you're around 4 to 5% breakage rates across your entire fleet, you're doing pretty good. Our historical breakage rates have usually been around 1 to 2%, and that speaks towards the reliability of the devices, as well as our students and staff take really good care of what they have. That has also helped with our resale value. That's one of the big things over the years. It's been kind of a secret to our success that a lot of other schools ask about when they say, well, why did you choose to go Apple? Is that we're able to take the buyback rates on our devices where the amount that they're worth at the end of the life of the device, we can sell it to a reseller or sell it to the community or whoever at a higher amount than what other schools might get for, say, a Chromebook or a Windows laptop. But we've been able to take that and use that to fund our additional purchases over the years. So going into the 2021 school year, we had 24 devices that had broken screens, which accounted for about 1.3% for that breakage rate, so right on target. So that was the year the last year that those devices were available for purchase. We move ahead to 21-22. We purchased approximately 500 devices. Those were again in grades 6 and 9. We hired a new technician that year. He started with us in October, and he started reporting an abnormal number of screen damages compared to past years. He looked at that data, and we started to see that coming through. You can see the numbers on that. We had 19 breakages on those older devices, so right on target for what we saw in past years. We saw it jump up to 75 out of 500, which is approximately 15%.
And that's the one with the small.
That's the one with the smaller one. So we were concerned. We relayed those concerns to Apple starting in the summer when we started to see a massive number of them coming back, and started having conversations about what's going on here. We need to find out what's up. However, we were still committed to the idea MacBook Air was our device. We knew we had some funding coming through that emergency connectivity funding. We needed to start moving forward. So we went ahead with purchasing new devices. So you get to this year. At that point, it now switches, and we've got approximately 500 of these older devices left in the entire district. All those devices were just turned in. 13 of those. So yes, it's a little higher percentage, but it's because the pool is much smaller. Still pretty much on track for what we've seen. However, we just did the final tally on those, 155 devices. Now, what's concerning about this is the increased number of those reports are what we have been terming mysterious damages. So, as I said before, what we're used to seeing is like explainable cases. Student dropped it, it fell down the stairs. There would be a situation where something, we could explain why it happened. What we were finding, we were hearing from students, is that they would close their device, they'd put it in their bag, they'd go to their next class, or they'd go home, they'd open it up, all of a sudden it's cracked. Mysterious. Now that number, that 155, also includes ones that were not mysterious. 100%, we had students that would continue to drop them. Students will still be students. What was also interesting about this is the number of staff damages. Again, this is the first year that staff members had this type of device. I could say probably in past years, I want to say maybe I had 3 to 4 over the entire lifespan of it. Just last year alone, we had 5 staff damages that were, again, mysterious, all but one of them. So there's definitely a pattern. There's something that is concerning about this. So we reached out to Apple. Again, we started that in summer of 2022, have been ongoing throughout the year. We opened support cases with them to generate repairs for devices that were still under warranty at that time. Those have been repaired at no cost to the district, or in some cases, parents have insurance and the insurance covered it. We did start offering insurance a couple of years ago. I think we're probably in our 3rd year, maybe, Dana? I think it sounds about right. At the request of the board. It's not really utilized by a lot of parents. I'd say maybe about 2 to 3% of our parents use it, even though it's pretty reasonable, especially when you look at the cost of the repair of a device. But there are some that have taken advantage of that and used it for this. Our cabinet team worked with Apple support leadership to share our concerns. We had a call with them, said this is really, obviously, a huge impact for our district, not just financially, but instructionally, because we've invested heavily in this over the last decade. Kevin, will definitely be able to speak to the impact on training and PD and everything that we've done to support our teachers in saying this is the device that we want to have. So it is definitely a big deal. That conversation is ongoing. We're still looking for some restitution with them on that. Apple has not really said that they believe that there is an issue, but I can tell you that I have talked to some other districts that have seen similar issues. However, right now, the determination that we've had is that we have to look at other options. We cannot sustain what is happening with these devices, and we need to make a decision now before we invest further in it. we know we need to look at other devices, including Chromebooks. So with that, we started having some conversations in looking at what our options could be. That conversation kind of started in November and has ramped up throughout the year. In talking to some of our other local districts, we have 16 local districts around us. Of those, the majority of them are Chromebooks. We do have 2 other districts in the area that are completely iPad. I can tell you the same concerns that we have about reliability of devices is what we're hearing from our neighbors that have Chromebooks. They're saying that it seems as though device breakage is on the rise. It doesn't matter if you're purchasing higher end devices or lower end devices. They're seeing a lot more breakage. I don't know if that's a sign of the times, if there's post-pandemic concerns. I know that was something that Superintendent Anderson and I had some conversation with other local districts. They were asking because they're seeing that on the rise as well. I can tell you our 2 neighbors that moved from that were MacBooks, that switched completely to iPads, did not have any concerns. They actually said it's been a pretty consistent ride, and that is Griffith and Highland, both switched very recently. That conversation about the sustainability, we have to think about that versus compromising the quality of education we want for our students. That conversation back in 2012, the reason why we went the route we did with Apple is because we felt it was the best device for creativity and for supporting our educational goals as a district. And that has been maintained to this day. But with that, we definitely had some hesitation on the idea of whether or not an iPad would be the right device. Kevin, if you want to share, I think we both have definitely, when Apple came to us and said, have you considered the iPad as a device for secondary? We both had definite concerns, if you want to share.
Trepidation was the word I used. Yeah, just because that our feeling of the iPad, and I know it has a lot to do with our age, was that we got a much bigger phone when they first came out, right? It was all app driven, and as a result, you had to access content through apps that didn't always have the functionality of what I could do here. I knew from previous iPads that if I tried to be as functional and just doing my day-to-day, I would have always chosen this device with a web-based approach rather than the apps. But they were able to present to us and said, whoa, we have over the years moved away from just enlarging what your phone is and truly created the powerful laptop, but it's fully mobile instead of being portable. Meaning that if you were to walk our halls at any time, our kids try to make these mobile devices. Watching a kid try to do a recording like this with a laptop with a webcam is awkward, and it's not what the device is designed to do. When you've got that iPad, which over the years of evolution has truly been for anywhere, anytime learning, take it with you, set it down, record video, do those things, that's what it's become. And everything that we use from a curriculum standpoint, from our student management system, which is Canvas, to all of the different vendors, are now going to be utilized through the web-based platform, through the actual browser. So you don't have to open up Google Docs with the Google Doc app. You go to it on the browser just like I have open right now. The functionality doesn't change. They also brought along with it something that we've all come to rely on, which is this trackpad. So rather than having to touch the screen alone, the laptop cases, which Jay has there, you'll see that rectangle is the trackpad that functions the exact same. The 2-finger right click, the swipe, everything is done the same way. If you didn't know, and that device was put into your hands, you could believe that it was a laptop, is where it is at right now. So seeing all of those things, it definitely eased my concerns, but also got me excited again, because what I've shared with every teacher group that we've worked with is when COVID hit, many schools were in a panic because they didn't have devices, period. So they're frantically trying to just provide devices to allow for learning at home. Because we had such rich experience with that for many years prior, we were able to do that, but teachers' focuses shifted from that ceiling of potential of creativity and publication and higher order thinking as a result of the device, transformative experiences, to I just need to make sure that I am in contact with my student as much as possible, make sure that they can access the work and that I can answer their questions. And because we lived through that together, that kind of became the role that technology played. I think with a new device in their hands, we can go back to what it's really designed to do, is let's not just substitute things that you could do with a Chromebook, basic word processing, simple slide presentations, web browsing. Let's get back to why that committee in 2012 said that this is the powerful tool that's going to transform learning. And the phrase we always use is, because of the device, there are things that were not previously conceivable to accomplish as a result of it being in their hands. And that goes to that SAMR model that kind of drove a lot of the research and the best practices that we wanted to do with it. So I was sold after conversations not only with Apple, but with our teachers and telling them through what that potential could look like. It excites me that even though we don't have our tech integration specialists, as we wanted to hopefully bring back at the past referendum, that we can still find ways to leverage professional learning opportunities through a partnership with Apple so teachers get back into that mindset of that heightened potential of what the device can do.
So Kevin hit a lot of the points I was going to jump
sorry.
on here. So we'll race through this next slide here, but just so you know, the last kind of hurdle after Kevin and I gave it the thumbs up was conversations with teachers and admins about those needs. And so did share with both the 6th grade and 9th grade teachers about the changes. We heard some of their concerns, some of the impacts. And so the overall benefits, obviously this will be some of the things that Kevin's already covered, but you know, that familiarity with basic procedures and care, these are the same types of devices that students have at K-5. There's just some added additional features that they're going to need to have that take the best of what a laptop can do and marry it to what they're already used to. The rugged, I can tell you at elementary, very few damages. The good news on the damages is also that they're much cheaper to repair. It's usually a broken screen. You're looking at $79 tops for something like that. With that, the good news is that Apple has also made insurance affordable on those. We were able to purchase these devices with insurance on them already at about $16 a year, and that covers 2 breakages per year. So a student can break it twice, and we're not out anything with that. Instruction, Kevin hit that pretty well. Assessment was another big concern Kevin had before we even got to that point. Is it something that our students are going to be able to reliably do their state assessments on? I can tell you it is very reliable at elementary. We have, when I say 0 issues over the last few years, we have had 0 issues. Students are able to take all their iLearn tests, iRead tests, NWEA, very few problems. Whereas at the secondary level, we've had quite a few issues over the last 2 years where even prior to that, we were pretty reliable. Classroom management was one big thing when we talked to our teachers. That was probably the #1 concern that they had, was whether or not this would be a device that they would be able to not only redirect students if they had concerns with if students were on content that they shouldn't be, would they be able to help kind of circulate the room and work with that. The good news is that, again, that's something that these devices have had for years, and we've had them at elementary. Our elementary teachers, they use it all the time. The secondary teachers, definitely, they want to be able to monitor those screens, make sure if a student is doing something they shouldn't be, they can lock them out, they can redirect them to other content, but they can also help by pushing out content to students, help them kind of through their lessons and work on that. So we feel like we really met that major concern from our staff. And the final one, obviously, one of our tenets is fiscal responsibility. Out the gate, completely out the door for these devices, you're looking at about $299 for the iPad. You're looking at about $85 to $90 for the case, and I think it's $59 for the insurance over 4 years. So you're looking at about $425 versus what we were paying, about $729. So those dollars will, again, as we've heard from Kevin, multiple times, we are definitely in a crunch situation where we need to think about how we're getting those dollars to the classroom, knowing that we're going to have less coming in from the state. This is going to allow us to definitely refresh more devices, and I can drive more of those dollars to the classroom for what we need.
You got my support.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you.
Excellent.
Next steps. So we're going to be looking to roll this out to grades 6 and 9 this school year. Additional grades will be rolled out over the next 2 years. The class of 26 will be the last group. That's due to that funding that we received from ECF. We do have to keep those for a couple of years. Teachers, they will be going through professional development this summer. As Kevin mentioned, we have a partnership with Apple to be able to provide some free professional development. They're coming in to work with us as well as throughout the year. And teachers will have access to both devices. This is not going to change what our teachers are doing. They will still have a laptop, and they will still have, or they will have an iPad, and they can choose the best method for how they can instruct our students. So we know that there's definitely opportunities to use both. So with that, if there's any questions.
I can totally echo what you're saying about the kids trying to utilize the devices. I remember when we were in high school having to make videos for various different things, and we didn't have the technology. And I've not seen the kids doing that until just this year. Titus had to do a video, and he was using whatever the app is on here to do it. And putting it all together and clipping things and making this whole video just using this and carrying this around versus, you know, a computer or anything. So I was excited to see that they're getting back into that in the classroom, and if we can help keep fostering that with something more manageable, then I love that.
And it echoes what many of our students, that even before they get to this, you know, get to school, mom and dad probably have an iPad, you know, so we're just moving that continuum right through, that those students are gaining those skills early and building upon them at secondary. So we're very excited about the opportunity. We think it's a chance to get back to where we were in 2012 and those first years. So thank you.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you, Jay. Alrighty. Business and operations. Number one, approve the appointment of Gloria Kirsch. What is it?
It's the Creshaw.
Creshaw. As the Troy Creek School Corporation representative to the Lowell Public Library Board of Trustees to replace and complete the term of Jesse Forrester, who tendered his resignation as a member of the Lowell Public Library Board of Trustees. Mrs. Kester's term of office will be effective June 8th, 23 through March 12th of 2026.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
What is this?
I do want to, yeah, because I said the same thing, like, why are we doing these appointments? And Dan did a little research. It's in Indiana code. We're required to. It's really kind of bizarre, but it's a formality.
Thank you for digging.
Sure.
I'm
We
all
get three.
for Melanie.
What's that?
We get appoint three.
And is that all of them on that board?
There's 7
No,
on the
there's
board.
7.
And is that to foster some kind of relationship then between the schools and the library, or?
I mean, we asked all those questions, like why is that? And it appears not to be just with schools. It's like, I think there were more boards than just the library board,
I
but
don't recall ever dealing with this issue.
Yeah, we've done it in a long time.
I don't remember it.
yeah.
Interesting.
So on any account, we have to do it.
Okay, we did it, we approved it.
Stand forward. Alrighty, all in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion passes. Alrighty, consent items. Are these all donations? They are. Number one, accept a donation from Joshua and Kelly Burright of Lowell, Indiana, in an amount of $500 to help fund the Lowell High School Staff Celebration ECA account. Number two, accept a donation from Jim and Robin Russell and Judy Livingston in the amount of $100 to help the Lowell High School MOMH ECA fund for groceries for Mrs. Witowski's special education class. Number three, accept a donation from the VFW Auxiliary 6841 of Lowell, Indiana, in the form of new underwear, socks, children's clothing for the use by the nurse at Lake Prairie Elementary School. Number four, accept a donation from the Lowell High School Lady Red Devils in the amount of $1,641.95 to help fund the Lowell High School girls basketball ECA account for entry fees to competitions. Number five, accept a donation from the Lowell Athletic Booster Club in the following amounts to help fund the various needs in the athletic department. Lowell High School in the amount of $22,638.40. The Lowell Middle School in the amount of $15,860.06. Number six, accept a donation from the Lowell Athletic Booster Club in the amount of $874.75 to help reimburse the Lowell High School for the 2023 Athletic Senior Awards.
I will make a motion to accept all 6 donations.
A second?
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Public comment for non-related agenda items. I have none. And the next, school board meeting will be Thursday, June 22nd. Anything else from anybody?
Yep. Really fast, if you could take a copy.
You
and
had
pass
your
it.
turn.
This is a draft calendar for the board meetings, for the next year. And I wanted you to take a look at them, because if you notice in November, there's the Tuesday right before Thanksgiving week, and I would suggest putting that November 21st to November 30th. Because if you look at between November 30th and December 14th, there's a period of 2 weeks, and it would just help not, there's a lot going on right around the holidays, so if you'd be inclined to change November 21st to the 30th. And then in March, 28th is during spring break. I would suggest we just eliminate that particular meeting. And always looking for feedback and suggestions, how we might revise this to then put it in place. So what are your thoughts?
That sounds good to me. I mean, that makes sense for that November, December there, and, yeah, 28th is good. Mark, you just need one for March.
So get rid of March 28th, and we'll replace November 21st with November 30th.
Actually, we're gonna get rid of all.
I mean, we could do that.
There's only one in December.
Pardon me?
There's only one in December, so we
Right.
did 1 November, 1 December. I think we should leave it in case with all the construction and things we're going.
Which one, the 30th?
Yeah, and with all the upcoming changes we're gonna have to be
Right.
discussing with staffing.
And we could take a look. If there's a light agenda, we could certainly entertain just canceling.
Yeah.
And it'll be close to the Thanksgiving, so we'll have bacon, right?
Maybe easier to keep it on
Yep.
and cancel it as we go.
And then the only other quick remaining item, Jay had an email and he'll share with you.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
I was
the-
gonna ask him about
That's
that.
out. Copy of the memo.
So, basically the gist of the memo is, would we be open to donating some of our equipment that we're basically going to obsolete?
Yes.
And if that's something the board would entertain, we'll get it on the next agenda.
I would support
Yeah.
that.
This is from the US Navy Sea Cadets,
Yep.
the Stars and Stripes Division. They have a lot of our local students in that organization. They have a lot of outdated equipment in their offices at the VFW, or I'm sorry, at the, they're downtown.
And they were looking at.
The Legion?
At the Legion, I was gonna say, yeah, they're at the Legion, and so, one of the cadets, is the nephew of Rob Cuspel, who is our network engineer. They were having some discussion about this, and he passed the request along to us to see if we would consider that. He would donate his time in ensuring that all the devices are completely wiped and they are completely safe for their use. And obviously this would impact some of our local students. The devices themselves, we don't know what the amount currently is going to be for those. We expect it to be very low is what the buyback rate on those is going to be.
And the
Due to the
fact
glitch.
that they're supporting our students, some of our students, and as long as we can ensure that they're white clean, there's no personal information in them, I'm 100% for it.
It's going back to our community, so I
Right.
Yeah. We've had similar requests. It's been a number of years, but it's usually for local projects.
Right.
And so,
So if you're receptive to that, Jay will put together a proposal and have it on the next agenda.
Sounds good.
thank you.
Anything else?